This is huge. Nancy Pelosi outperformed nearly every hedge fund in 2024, even beating the infamous inverse Kramer stock tracker. So this is very amusing. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. You will get analysis on the absolutely brilliant and perfectly timed stock trades of a certain Democrat that possibly Elon Musk, Doge, and President Trump are investigating for insider trading, as they accuse President Trump of insider trading, which is so hilarious. Hit subscribe to this channel right now. Your super chat is greatly appreciated. How'd they get $20 million on a $200,000 salary? New York Post, Elon Musk reveals Doge's new target. Members of Congress. How do people get strangely wealthy? Now you have Adam Schiff calling for insider trading against Trump. It is the most hilarious thing in the world. Democrats are always, they're always at the forefront of accusing others of things that they almost certainly do. Hit subscribe to this channel. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen.
Career, has your husband ever made a stock purchase or sale based on information he received from you?
No, absolutely not. Okay.
No, absolutely not. This press conference is over. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi insisting that her husband never bought stocks based on insider information. The denial comes days after Paul Pelosi made a controversial purchase of a computer chip stock ahead of a congressional vote on semiconductor manufacturing. Here to react is Strive Asset Management.
Right before a congressional vote. So listen to that again. Right before a congressional vote.
Paul Pelosi made a controversial purchase of a computer chip stock ahead of a congressional vote on semiconductor manufacturing. Here to react is Strive Asset Management founder Vivek Ramaswamy. Vivek, thanks for being here. Is this how Washington works, especially if you're Nancy Pelosi and you control the levers of what gets voted on and line items? Hey, I'm going to do this over here, and I'll whisper to Paul over here, and he makes a deal.
So look, Petey, I think if we're being frank about this, do I actually believe that her husband has traded on material non-public information illegally? If I had to bet, I would say no, just because the downside of doing so would be so bad for them that it would be so catastrophically short-sighted for them to do such a thing. However, this is a sliding scale where there are all kinds of informational advantages in a market that often involve, like hedge funds, in many cases legally gaining informational advantages that don't rise to the level of material non-public information. That's a sliding scale. And the question is, do we want our policymakers, our lawmakers, the people in charge to be benefiting from that? Or do we even want the appearance of them benefiting from that, because that erodes public trust in the system? My view is that we don't. And I've had this debate authentically with many folks on Capitol Hill, Republicans, Democrats, as to whether or not why it is that people in Congress and their spouses need to be able to freely trade stocks. Many of them say that it would be a disincentive to get good people to run for Congress. But the good news is there's a solution to this, Pete. I don't understand why no one's pursued this yet, which is I just think that every one of those people in Congress, in the Senate, etc., should have their portfolios public in real time, such that the public can know that if they do have some kind of informational advantage, even if it's a legal one, the public can replicate those strategies if they want. I think that would settle this issue once and for all, but I don't think many people in Congress are going to like that.
So transparency, you too can trade like Nancy and Paul Pelosi if they make that available. By the way, she denies she owns any stocks, but of course, if family members own it, they both do well by that. So you're saying transparency ultimately is better than a ban on buying stocks in Congress?
Well, I personally, if I was ever in a position of elected office, I certainly wouldn't want to be in the position of trading stocks or having a spouse who is actively trading stocks. I think it makes no sense. However, even to those people in Congress who complain that that would disincentivize good people in the government, which is an argument that resonates with me. We don't have enough good people who run. I don't want to create good disincentives for that. One thing you could do is to say you and your spouse, anyone in the household, have the trades available in real time, not on some delayed basis, not on some quarterly filing basis. And the good news is we have a regime in this country where people who are officers of public companies, they also sometimes transact in the stock of their own companies. What's required of them? Real-time disclosure of those trades. I think it could be the same for public officials as well.
Disclosure. You mentioned, good people running for office. Maybe that'll be you someday, Vivek. I would love to see it. Thank you, brother.
That's an interest. That's an interesting. This is an interesting photo right here. This was 2 years ago. So Vivek Ramaswamy, very intelligent, was being very gracious pertaining to the possibility that Democrats, or one Democrat in particular, was giving information to a family member. This is a little bit more information on a potential indictment in the works. Hit subscribe if you're new.
Nancy Pelosi's husband, Paul Pelosi, has bought over $2 million in Tesla stock this month alone, as lawmakers push to ban Congress and their spouses from stock trades. And the administration continues to push electric vehicles and a green agenda.
So, oh, how Democrats have changed. Millions in stock purchases of Tesla, and now, they're giving tacit approval to violence around the country.
James Freeman, what do you make of this?
Yeah, I'm not going to second guess Paul Pelosi's investment decisions. I think he's made a lot that have turned out pretty well. And this one, when you look at how hostile this administration, this Congress are to oil and gas production, to gasoline-powered cars, sounds like maybe not a bad bet. I do think this is the kind of disclosure that voters should know about when they look at Nancy Pelosi and they look at her hostility to and all the policies that raise the price of gasoline. Not that her San Francisco constituents are going to vote against her this fall, but colleagues may not want to make her speaker again.
Well, it's also worth noting how wealthy she's become while being a government bureaucrat.
Yeah.
Well, there's that. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, the last time James and I were talking about Tesla, I made him giggle because we said there's more red flags than a communist parade going on with the fundamentals. And I would say there's even more red flags here. I mean, congressmen and congresswomen.
I'm giggling again.
Great, I'll take it. But look, there's no way that they should be allowed to trade stocks, right? I think you do a twofold thing here. Ban it outright and watch how fast people only stay in office for a couple terms because they won't want to give up the wealth multiplying effect of being in power. And that happens when you can use the inside information that you get. We have strict laws against insider trading. We need it for congressmen and women as well.
So the question is, how they're actually talking about investigating Trump for insider trading, which is so absurd, for a public statement, which is not insider trading. So they're trying to say that because major stock purchases took place right before Trump made an announcement on Truth Social, therefore it's insider trading. That happens all the time, especially 5 years ago, when Democrats shut down economic activity, and you had Democratic and Republican Congress people selling or buying puts, the opposite of a call, right before the market tanked because Democratic governors shut down economic activity. You had people preemptively pardoned. The chief architect of that was preemptively pardoned. And she did very well in 2024. 2023 was another very successful year. So pretty much every year she outperforms all the indices and even hedge funds, by and large. Check this out. Hit subscribe if you're new.
Chair of the Council of Economic Advisors, Tom Phillips. And Tom, great to see you. But if you look at some of the trading done by Pelosi's hubs, and how it is timed with votes in the House, it just smells bad. And this is where Sean and I debate this. You should not have to pass additional rules about stock ownership in Congress. Insider trading is illegal, and they should prosecute it, whether it's civil, SEC, or federally, if what they're doing is illegal. But how do you see it, particularly with this legislation trying to potentially end stock ownership over in Congress?
She made 65% on her stock trades in 2023 and 54% in 2024. Okay, does that make any sense to anybody? What kind of algorithm or what kind of trading software or platform are they using? So in 2024, she made 54%, and in 2023, 65%. I mean, how many hedge funds, is Warren Buffett doing this? No. How many hedge funds are doing this? I mean, how many investors are doing this? How many people on Wall Street and the world, are making 65% and then 54% the next year? Okay, that's not it's not rocket science, okay, to ask these questions.
Well, shocker, guys. It turns out that lawmakers make laws that benefit lawmakers, essentially. So that's why Congress have no insider trading laws, but the executive branch does, essentially. But both obviously have a conflict of interest. Whether you make laws or you execute laws, you still have a lot of conflicts of interest. So if you look at the White House regulations, which are very important because the White House gets, all the market data a day before. So today's jobs report were known by the White House yesterday afternoon, essentially. So you need trading restrictions within the White House to discipline that. But basically, you're not allowed to own individual stocks. You have to recuse yourself if you do. So many people just sell them off, essentially. I think that's the way to go with Congress. There needs to be a sell-off. There can't be a recuse because essentially you can't recuse yourself from representing the people you actually that voted for you. So it should just be a sell-off of individual stocks. You can still own index funds, which you can in the executive branch too.
So, Tom, I would disagree with you on this because, again, when you're in the executive branch, you might be crafting rules and regulations that you can spring on the markets. A lot of that's done behind closed doors. In Congress, a lot of the bills, they're debated in public, right? You see the hearings, you see the bills voted on, you see them go to the floor. You have as much knowledge about whether these bills will pass as the members of Congress do. The one distinction, though, I'll give you is if you're in leadership, if you're Nancy Pelosi and you're going to make sure the CHIPS Act passed and how much it's going to be, and it was written behind closed doors and it's sprung on the American people, she knows Joe Biden's going to sign it, that's different. That's a different scenario, but rank and file members of Congress, and I was there for 9 years, they don't have insider information. They just don't. And a lot of them don't have a lot of money, and to say we're not going to treat them like average Americans, a lot of people come into the executive branch, they have a lot of money, and they serve for 2 to 4 years. Members of Congress, you want some for 2 or 4 years, but you also want some that are there for 20 years, so you have institutional knowledge. And to say they can't trade stock, I think that's a step too far. But if you trade on insider information, that's illegal and they should be prosecuted.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's more public in Congress for sure, but they still will know more than the public, right? It's like with a lot of companies, they have a lot of public disclosure of their information. That doesn't mean that the board or management still knows more. So the lawmakers might know what has a chance of passing or not, essentially, better than the trading public. But I agree with you.
You have more faith in Congress than I do, Tom.
They shouldn't be banned from holding stocks. They can hold index funds, but they shouldn't hold individual stocks where they basically can benefit that industry.
I can beat a trader with mutual funds and index funds. I've done it multiple years. Boom. So no, I'm not going to cry. I'm not going to cry. I've never owned individual stocks in 30 years of being a financial journalist. Moving on, or in any individual security. I want to move on to old Joe's giving the federal bureaucrat.
Now time.
News reports coming in that.
So the issue is that Democrats are now going after Trump because of a Truth Social statement. What happened was the market tanked because of fears of tariffs. Obviously, that was short term. You'd have to be a complete imbecile to think that it was going to be long term, 2, 3, 4 years of tariffs. So a lot of Democrats were saying the sky is falling, Trump is taking the market, oh my God, it's the end of the world. Then he put a pause on not China, but some countries, or a number of countries, and the market went back up. That's not insider trading. Then they say, well, it's because a whole, major stock purchase or calls were made, stock options were purchased. Okay, and that happens. If that's the case, then you have Pelosi and others are what? Are they guilty or not guilty? So what does Congressman Schiff or anyone else think of Nancy Pelosi's stock purchases or her husband's stock purchases? So it's unbelievable. They're so good. They are so good at this sleight of hand. It's like, you're insider trading, Trump. Hello? Years and years of beating the market, 50%, 60% above the market. And it's like, or 60% in terms of performance. And you're buying and selling stocks right before major bills and major announcements, and no Democrat is concerned at all. This is hilarious.
That federal investigation, that grand jury in Delaware into Hunter Biden's business dealings, they've wrapped up their term. The probe has been ongoing since 2018.
And of course, everybody was preemptively pardoned. And of course, this was during Biden's administration where we couldn't yet acknowledge that he was one fry short of a Happy Meal. Of course, all of these things, the Democrats, they wrap themselves around this cloak of morality. And yet their political side is so not only utterly corrupt, infinitely more corrupt than President Trump's administration ever was. The corruption they accuse of Trump, they can't find. Not only did they fabricate, and they can't find anything because they fabricated. Trump was never a Kremlin operative. Trump didn't commit insider trading crimes. That was potentially, the San Francisco Democrat in question. Then they accused Trump of trying to commit a rebellion, therefore he should be banned in every state. We can go on forever. They said Trump said both sides. That never happened. They said Trump said to ingest a certain product. That never happened. We can go on. It's an apoplectic hysteria regarding Trump and a complete worship of plausible deniability when it comes to them.
No charges yet filed, no final decision about whether to charge Hunter. The investigation is continuing into alleged tax evasion, money laundering, and violations of foreign lobbying laws. We're going to stay on the story for you. Joining us now, Congressman Greg Steube of House Foreign Affairs. Let's move on to this. Congressman, it's good to see you.
You too.
China is now warning California is a community property.
They've never had a
lucrative stock
crossed on the other
lucrative stock trade storm. That's going on too. I mean, your take on this, her husband's lucrative stock trades while Pelosi is in office. Her office is defending it, saying she does not own the stocks. California is a community property state, so she does own half the assets that he bought. What do you think of that?
Well, and you can't tell me that they didn't have a conversation about what was coming up. We should pass the Ban Congress Stock Act, not allow members of Congress to have individual stock trading in stocks. It would take care of all of those problems. It's a bipartisan bill. Pelosi could have brought that up 4 years ago when I started in Congress, but she hasn't because her husband is making millions of dollars off of having information. And of course, she would say that they've never had a conversation, just like the president has said he's never had a conversation with Hunter Biden about his business dealings. But we know that somebody with close familial ties is having conversations about things like that. We should ban stock trading with members of Congress, individual stocks. It shouldn't be allowed, and it would prevent these type of things. At the very least, it makes it look very, very bad for members of Congress to have your spouses doing deals like that on information that obviously she was privy to as the Speaker of the House and making money off of business deals.
You know, Congresswoman Kat Cammack, to your point, she was with us last night on this and on Paul Pelosi buying up to $5 million in stock in chipmaker NVIDIA ahead of that vote on the $52 billion in taxpayer subsidies for U.S. chipmakers to take on China. Let's listen to this.
For example of this double set of standards that Congress lives by that Americans don't have to live by. And it's ridiculous, it's totally unfair, and it needs to change. The Speaker is in control of what bills come to the House floor and when. Tell me that that is not the most incestuous relationship of all. We know that he's getting inside information because there's no way that he would have known that in July, the CHIPS Act or USICA was going to be coming to the House floor for a vote after the Senate has been considering their version.
What do you make of that take?
Well, she's right. There's no way he didn't know that that was going to happen, and there's no way that Pelosi didn't know that that deal was going to be done and that bill was going to be come up because her and Schumer coordinate with the business of the House and the Senate to pass bills. So it comes up for a vote. Now it's presumed to come to the House either this week or next week while we're still here in Washington. You know darn well that she knew exactly what was going on. She tipped off her husband. He made that deal, but we'll never be able to prove it because she's going to say that she doesn't talk to her husband about this type of information. But the American people are smarter than that. The American people realize for what this is.
Speaker Pelosi, she's been reluctant about a ban on trading, stock trading by Congress and their spouses. Her family's net worth is $130 million. Let's watch the speaker here. Watch.
Insider just completed a 5-month investigation finding that 49 members of Congress and 182 senior congressional staffers have violated the Stock Act, the insider trading law. I'm wondering if you have any reaction to that. And secondly, should members of Congress and their spouses be banned from trading individual stocks while serving in Congress?
We have a responsibility to report in the stock, on the stock. Yeah. We are a free market economy. They should be able to participate in that.
So we're a free market, transparency.
It's so funny how I'm just wondering, like, if you're a lifelong liberal Democrat and you wrap yourself in a cloak of morality, I just don't understand how you can ignore the corruption, the blatant and rampant corruption. So they say Trump is worse, but Trump doesn't have Hunter's laptop, Hillary Clinton's servers, Pelosi's stock trades. And we can go on forever. Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld's disastrous foreign policy record. Let's go on forever. Trump didn't investigate an incoming Democrat and purchase a dossier like Clinton did. And the DNC, the Republican National Committee, didn't purchase a dossier. I mean, if the tables were turned, there would be zero chance that that Republicans could do what Democrats have done. Okay, let's continue.
On this for The Hill magazine and Fox News contributor Joe Concha. Joe, we wanted you on this story because you've written about this and you've looked into this. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, her family sold her husband up to $3 million worth of shares in Google's parent Alphabet just a month before the Justice Department in 8 states opened a massive antitrust lawsuit into Google. When you saw the story, what was your reaction?
To write about it and to look into what else Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi have done in terms of inside information in order to make themselves even more rich than they already are. Here's an example, Liz. March of 2021. And these are either impeccable instincts or something else, but Paul Pelosi exercised options to purchase 25,000 Microsoft shares worth $5 million, okay? And then less than 2 weeks later, wow, lo and behold, the U.S. Army disclosed a $22 billion deal to buy augmented reality headsets from, ding, 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 Microsoft. And shares of the companies, their shares of the company rose sharply after the deal was announced. So either Paul Pelosi somehow knew this is just the right time to buy Microsoft, or perhaps his wife, the House Speaker, knew that that contract was coming down the pike. And there are other examples as well here.
So this is not difficult to prove, actually. This is not difficult at all. Okay, these are perfectly timed stock trades. They could have emanated. The Pelosi's could be absolutely brilliant. There's no evidence at this moment that she committed a crime. She could absolutely be brilliant, and every single stock trade is perfectly timed. Warren Buffett is like a complete imbecile compared to Pelosi, who is Adam Smith and Warren Buffett and every major investor combined all into one person. So that could be the case. The Pelosi's could be absolutely brilliant, and they could possibly be the greatest savants in terms of investing that have ever lived. Or maybe an investigation would lead to information that it was given in an unlawful manner. But it's Trump. Because Trump put on Truth Social, is a buying opportunity because the market tanked. First they blame Trump for tanking the market, then they blame him for saying, "Hey, it's a buying opportunity," and then the market goes back up. They've literally been wrong on the wonderful, morally superior liberal Democrats have been wrong in the past week on everything, and it's been in real time.
Overall, Liz, the Pelosi's are worth something like $115 million, and a lot of that money comes from stocks, options, investments made by Paul Pelosi. That's according to a Business Insider report, Liz. So either he's Gordon Gekko or he has something that we don't have, inside information.
To your point, options trades are directional bets on where a stock is going, either up and down. So, that's an indication. Like we don't know, it's speculation whether he's got inside information. Congressmen are the ultimate insiders. That's the story. Look at Senator Josh Hawley. He introduced his Pelosi bill to ban stock trading in Congress. Watch the senator on Hannity last night. Watch this.
Nancy Pelosi is the perfect example of what should not be happening in D.C., which is people getting rich on the stock market off of information they know because they're a member of Congress.
So he is saying it.
This is what I have not understood the past 10 years. And the great Louis Gohmert, Congressman Louis Gohmert, said it best. They know they're lying. They know we know they're lying. And they could probably pass a polygraph. Okay, so they're so good. The Democratic Party and Republicans, the old school Republicans, never Trump Republicans especially. But the Democrats have had the Liz Cheney, Harris Biden coalition, the President Obama, Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney, Bush coalition. They call it uni party, but it's really this one party system. They've had this kind of alliance where everyone knows what they're doing, and it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable how nobody's been taken to task, yet Trump has been accused of things he hasn't done, and people have run with these stories endlessly. Even though he's a two-time president, he won the popular vote, there wasn't a shred of evidence to investigate Trump on anything, and people are getting away with perfectly timed stock trades.
People in D.C. say it. But Nancy Pelosi denies it. I mean, the timing, to your point, of his trades have been called into question around government contracts and legislation. Let's show it. What did you think of what Senator Hawley just said?
I think he is 100% right. And you're going to be amazed by this, Elizabeth, but he is saying exactly what Representative.
So, I mean, he bought Tesla a month before Biden executive order, exercised 2 million in Microsoft options before Microsoft won a $22 billion contract, exercised 2 million in Microsoft options 2 weeks before Microsoft won $22 billion contract. Wait, is that the same? Yeah, okay. Bought up to $11 million worth of mega cap tech stocks amid tech legislation. Bought up to $5 million in NVIDIA before a vote on $52 billion in new chip maker subsidies. And we can go on forever. It's unbelievable. They're the smartest, most intelligent investors that have ever walked this planet.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has said about this as well. So it's not just Republicans that are calling on Congress to not be able to trade on stocks and options anymore, but even Democrats, particularly from the squad, are saying that, no, this is wrong too. So we now have bipartisan agreement on something because year after year, somehow, not just the Pelosi's, but the swamp, members of Congress somehow outperform the market. Go figure.
I mean, to your point, Democrat Abigail Spanberger said yes to this ban. Put your money in a blind trust. I mean, that's not, the perfect solution either. But also, Jerry Nadler and Adam Schiff were for a ban too, Joe. But we didn't get it because Nancy Pelosi ran out the clock on this. It was in the omnibus spending bill, and then it just wasn't. It vanished before Christmas.
Yeah, and she said last year that she believes in a free market society, therefore Congress should be able to trade in stocks. But no, when you know that a contract's coming down the pike, or you know that an industry is about to be in trouble because of more regulations, I mean, that's a layup right there. And it's not just the House Speaker. Basically, every member of Congress has this information. Some, I would hope, would still say, no, you know what, that's wrong. I'm not going to trade off of this. But probably enough are going to do that in these situations because, to quote Gordon Gekko, greed is good. Greed works.
Yeah, well, to your point, Republican Senator Richard Burr got in trouble, right? He got inside information to trade on the pandemic, and he got in trouble for it. So it's not just Democrats, it's Republicans. It's just that, Joe, taxpayers don't want the feeling that, people go into D.C. to serve. Politicians go to serve, but they come out only serving themselves. So your final word.
Yeah, 16% approval for Congress in Gallup, and just 2% have a great deal of trust of Congress. 2% maybe because of situations like this. But here, Elizabeth, they're doing the right thing with this Pelosi bill if it does pass. The question is, does the president sign it into law if it passes the Senate?
Jobs added to the economy?
So whenever, if you are in the military, or if you are doing something where you're risking your life for this country, you definitely you're serving this country. But then when you hear especially Democrats, these are public servants. Okay, nobody wants to lose their jobs, but what Doge is doing is ensuring that we have a country that doesn't go bankrupt. And we can go on forever. But when people say, "Oh, I served in Congress," okay, well, I guess you could say that, but were you really a public servant in Congress? And that's up for debate for most people in Congress.
3.7%, that is a low unemployment rate. Peter Marisi joins me now. Peter, that is a strong report. That is a strong economy. You're going to give me an argument on that?
Not at all, no. The job market might not be just coming to an end. It starts to do some of the
bounds. Right. Last year, this Pelosi's stock trades saw a 65% return last year. This comes as Congress has stalled talks on banning lawmakers from trading stocks. Do you think there should be a ban, Peter?
Well, I think Congressmen and women should not be trading in the individual stocks and so forth. They're involved in too many regulatory activities that have a consequence for their holdings. My feeling is they should be in index funds, and those should be put aside in a way they don't touch them. Now, you got the problem that she's got a spouse. I mean, should spouses really be limited?
Right.
It's a very tough question in this day and age.
I've got a solution. How about immediate full disclosure? When any member of Congress makes any trade of any kind, it's posted. You can see what they've done, where they bought, why they bought, and how much they bought. What's wrong with that?
I like that very much. It's kind of like corporate disclosures.
Yeah.
What are the principals doing? Why not? But I really get a kick out of this. The Democrats hate the free market. They despise capitalism. But if you start to threaten the New York Times intellectual property, it sues a nonprofit like ChatGPT. And Nancy, Shouldn't you really be a Republican with stock holdings like that?
65% return is pretty good, if you ask me.
Well, she likes leveraged positions. I mean, if you buy in the options market,
that's it.
You know what happens is when it goes up, you really go up. When it goes down, you're in a lot of trouble.
So, this is a Bazinga article. Nancy Pelosi outperformed nearly every hedge fund in 2024, even beating the infamous inverse Kramer stock tracker. According to the trading platform Autopilot, Nancy Pelosi's stock tracker took the financial world by storm in 2024, delivering a jaw-dropping 54%. That's actually lower than the year before. Remarkably, it even beat the inverse Kramer stock tracker, designed to do the opposite of Jim Cramer's stock pick, which itself posted an impressive 43% gain. So this is unbelievable. Okay, this is really unbelievable. But let's go ahead.
Hey, video creator.
Speaker Pelosi's husband Paul made a big investment in chips just before Congress votes on a bill that would give $52 billion in subsidies and tax credits to the chip industry. Hillary Vaughn has the story, and I guess how much did Pelosi's husband invest, Hillary?
Ashley, over $1 million, but this stock purchase by Speaker Pelosi's husband, Paul, is again sparking questions about conflict of interest and whether or not lawmakers and their spouses should be able to trade stock while holding office. Mr. Pelosi just disclosed $1 million stock purchase of a major chip maker, NVIDIA, in June. NVIDIA makes chip systems for cars, robots, and other technology. That's relevant because Leader Chuck Schumer is trying to get the CHIPS bill across the finish line in the next week or so. The bill would give about $52 billion in aid to the semiconductor chip industry, something that NVIDIA could take advantage of. We reached out to Speaker Pelosi's office for comment. Her spokesperson tells me this in a statement, quote, "The Speaker does not own any stocks, as you can see from the required disclosures with."
So it's always this sophomoric response from the morally superior. Well, we don't own any stocks. Oh, okay. Well, then why are we worried? Let's just forget about it. Yeah, you happen to get 50% returns. You beat every not only surpass the indices. You beat any performance from hedge funds, and consistently do that year after year. And it just happens to be that you perfectly timed stock trades. It's fine. Nothing wrong with that, But it says SP for spouse, so it's not the Democratic politician. I mean, like, at a certain point, people are tired of hearing that there's nothing wrong with Biden, and Pelosi didn't engage in this insider trading, and Hunter never spoke to his father about business deals, and Clinton used servers for yoga, and all of this nonsense. Trump is a Kremlin operative. I mean, you really believe in fantasies and completely fabricated nonsense if you're part of the morally superior, highly educated, who are so livid about Trump always.
Which the Speaker fully cooperates. These transactions are marked SP for spouse. The Speaker has no prior knowledge or subsequent involvement in any transactions. But there are about 3 different bills in the House that would make this activity illegal, that would prevent even spouses of lawmakers from trading stock, because the question is whether or not the lawmaker themselves has prior knowledge of this or is actually trading these stocks themselves. They're still ultimately benefiting from a very well-timed stock purchase. Ashley?
Now, the Speaker's office telling Fox Business, quote, the Speaker does not own any stocks, as you can see from the required disclosures with which the Speaker fully cooperates. These transactions are marked SP for spouse. The Speaker has no prior knowledge or subsequent knowledge involvement in any transactions.
Clinton's servers were for yoga. Hunter's laptop had nothing to do with bribery and graft. Biden is completely functioning and his cognitive abilities are fantastic. There's no reason for these absurd videos about our president. Oh, George Clooney then allowed us to actually believe our lying eyes. What else? Trump said both sides. Trump's a Kremlin operative. I mean, all of the fabricated hoaxes and lies. I mean, they say that Trump lies, but he's the most honest president. You get exactly what you want if you voted for President Trump. Tariffs to bring American jobs back, enforcing immigration laws, and trying to end never-ending military conflict. That's exactly why. People say, how do you go from Bernie Sanders to Trump? Because of foreign policy, my God almighty. It's so difficult for the morally superior to understand. Because I don't run on this AI script software called like this artificial intelligence, liberal, progressive software. I run on what's good for the country. I base my decisions politically, and I always have, on what I feel is the best for the country. Now, I have to tell you, when I was on the left, there's like a great deal of peer pressure. You're indoctrinated to a great degree. And so I thought, oh, banning fracking would be best for the country. But that would be terrible for the country. Notice how they're not talking about that anymore. These are the long list of... And so I wasn't really... I might not have been really focused on what was best for the country. I think that most people left of center, liberal Democrats, progressives, far left, there's an ideology they have to adhere to. The country is second. That's why you get this kind of pedantic, there's a couple of YouTubers, million, 3 million, so I'm not going to give you the names, but it's this very pedantic discussion. And it's always about trying desperately to twist a failure in Biden's administration to somehow it being good for the country. Doesn't ever work out that way. Although these pundits are very wealthy and they make a lot of people want to be deceived. But let's continue.
Lou, judging by that statement, it looks like they've dotted their I's and crossed their T's. Legally speaking, it's probably kosher, but that doesn't mean that it's ethical, right?
It doesn't. This doesn't pass the smell test. I mean, anyone that's been in a relationship, I was married for 16 years. If I'm going and swinging around millions of dollars in a stock trade and my spouse or partner doesn't know about it, there's no way. Just no average American is going to believe this is real. The best, I think.
Mrs. Stacy Sullivan, thank you. Greatly appreciated. Thank you so much to my super chat. Thank you.
At the end of the day, the best stock pickers should not be in Washington, D.C. It's long overdue for legislation to prevent this. It's just as bad as insider trading. And, I'll take a fair bet here. I think Paul's picked the wrong chip stock anyway. He should have picked NXPI over NVIDIA because NXPI has much more exposure to the automotive sector. So I hope his trade works out terribly for him.
Yeah, well, we'll have to see. We'll have to also see what happens with the DUI charges that were filed against him as well. That's another issue. But it's so interesting to me, Angela, because I look at when it comes to Speaker Pelosi, it's rules for thee, not for me. This is not legislation that she's pursuing, right, to make sure that Congress and trades and spouses trades would be regulated because of the potential to share insider information.
That's right. In fact, almost 7 months ago, last December, Speaker Pelosi was actively advocating against such legislation. And I think her office's explanation here is just a little bit insulting to the American public, because when they say that SP stands for spouse on her filing documents, it might as well stand for Speaker Pelosi. Her husband's gotten himself into hot water on this before. In fact, just a little over a year ago, he cashed in on more than $5 million in Alphabet stock right before that a House committee was set to vote on reining in big tech. So the timing is just way too suspicious. It is too convenient to be true for the Pelosi's.
Go.
Look who's back, Congresswoman Kat Cammack from House Homeland Security. Congresswoman, it's great to have you on. Okay, this D.C. controversy, it's good to see you. Lucrative stock trading by Nancy Pelosi's husband, while she's Speaker of the House and has been in Congress. Her team's answer, her office is saying Nancy Pelosi does not own any stocks. Here's the problem. The Pelosi's live in California. California is a community property state, so she does own them.
Yeah, no, this is what's crazy. I would love for a member of the media to ask her about their arrangement, whether they have a prenup or if they were to divorce, what would happen with all of those assets that she claims aren't hers. This is ridiculous. And a little known fact that I think Americans should know is that when members trade stocks, they have up to 30 days to report it. 30 days. And even then, they don't have to give the exact amount of what they purchased or sold. It's just a range. So this is just one more example of this double set of standards that Congress lives by, that Americans don't have to live by. And it's ridiculous. It's totally unfair, and it needs to change. This is absolutely the swamp at work at its best.
You know, Congresswoman, the other problem, too, is Paul Pelosi. He buys stock options in companies like big tech companies, right? Again, making millions of dollars while Pelosi's overseeing potential legislation that could hit companies like big tech. To be able to trade stock options profitably, you have to know or figure out which direction that stock could go, and then you make a big profit. So this feels like, you know, there's talk that they've got an insider information edge.
Absolutely. When you think about this, there you have that 30-day lag of when things are going to be reported, if they're reported at all. And if they aren't reported, get this, it's only a $200 fine. So there's millions of dollars of stocks that have been traded, that have been bought. And you think that the $200 fine is going to bother the Pelosi's? I think not. They clearly have no regard for the law, as discovered by the drunk driving incident by Mr. Pelosi. But also think about this. You have all of these stocks that are being bought and sold all the time, legislation that is typically in draft form, and the Speaker is in control of what bills come to the House floor and when. Tell me that that is not the most incestuous relationship of all. We know that he's getting inside information because there's no way that he would have known that in July, the CHIPS Act, or USICA, was going to be coming to the House floor for a vote after the Senate has been considering their version. There's just no way he would have known that because we had seen months ago action on this bill and then it died out. So clearly there was some insider baseball going on, some insider information, and it's wrong. We absolutely should be investigating this, and she should be held accountable for sharing this information with her husband.
So, and the Congresswoman, okay, to your point, buying millions of dollars worth of stock in big tech companies with headquarters in Pelosi's own district maker, NVIDIA is in Pelosi's home district. Again, $52 billion in taxpayer funding of chip makers to take on China, that's coming down the pipeline. Apple, Google, all have their headquarters right in Pelosi's district. That's who Paul Pelosi's invested in. I mean, critics are saying this raises questions that Nancy Pelosi leads a life of privilege. She and her husband think they're untouchable, and that, you know, that the idea that her job has nothing to do with his financial doings and dealings, it just doesn't pass the.
And you know what? There's nothing wrong with having $130 million. God bless Nancy Pelosi and her husband. They made the money. It's fantastic. There was something called honest graft in Tammany Hall. This was well over a century ago. Over a century ago. And it's not difficult for politicians to capitalize on information. Now, they have gone after Trump on the most absurd things. And President Trump, he really needs to, his administration needs to treat, those who have investigated him in a reciprocal manner, with reciprocity. And so the people who investigated him did so because of the rule of law, and definitely no politics involved. So Trump should have no politics involved and simply look at everything from the rule of law. And then, find out, okay, how on earth does Pelosi get 54% in 24 and 60+% in 23? And then, she did quite well every other year as well. How is that possible? That's the question. How is it possible? It doesn't make any sense. So, a lot of this is it's easy to understand. Let's see here. So this is, ladies and gentlemen,
Pentagon. HHS is going to cut, according to our
7 members of.
This is one of the reasons why they're going after Elon Musk so with such vitriol. Okay, Musk is very smart. Okay, I love when AOC of all people says that Musk isn't smart. It's very amusing. This is the congresswoman who forced out Amazon from building its headquarters in New York. Even the Democrats were livid because it would bring. She's obsessed, along with Bernie Sanders and others, with tax collection. It would have brought in billions in taxes. So she went after Amazon, and then Amazon gives her donations now. You go to Open Secrets, which is another amusing part of all of this. But anyway, check this out.
Of the Doge team, giving a peek behind the curtain of President Trump's cost-cutting department.
It was amazing.
Yep.
You got to watch the whole thing. The team consists of a wide range of experts, including a former rocket scientist. You think he'd be qualified to fix the government, and I believe he is. And one of the co-founders of the runaway success Airbnb, a billionaire who's donating his time.
The Doge team also consists of engineers, and they all have the same goal: to slash wasteful government spending. Watch.
Well, this is a revolution, and I think it might be the biggest revolution in government since the original revolution. But at the end of the day, America is going to be in much better shape. America will be solvent. The critical programs that people depend upon will work, and it's going to be a fantastic future. But are we going to get a lot of complaints along the way? Absolutely. One of the things I learned at PayPal was who complains the loudest and with the most amount of fake righteous indignation? The fraudsters. It's a tell. There's some of these NGOs that are crazy, like the $2 billion to Stacey Abrams' NGO that basically didn't exist, and suddenly gets $2 billion awarded from the federal government. Why?
How do you get a grant for a non-governmental organization for $2 billion, even if the rebuttal is, it's helping make a community or a city more green and environmentally friendly? $2 billion? $2 billion? Remember Austin Powers, $1 million? Even 1 million was like, back then, not that much. This is $2 billion with a B. $2 billion? And that's just like the Democrats don't care. They see things on a superficial level. All they can comprehend is Musk is firing people and There's, Pelosi, who cares about stock trades when we have a menace called Trump? It's like, it's unbelievable.
And there are many such cases like that.
I love that he brought that up. Just love it.
Well, it's true because, the more and more we discuss this, I'm like, do these people think we're stupid? I mean, they've been spending all this money. Meanwhile, we've kind of highlighted all the tragedies that are happening in this country as it relates to different communities. You got homeless veterans. You got a crisis when it came to the wildfires in California. You got a crisis in North Carolina. And all these people are like, we have no money. We have no money. Meanwhile, they have found all of these other programs to give money to. And somehow they all link back to Democrat organizations or Democrat donors or politicians.
So Doge savings so far, they say, and you can go on the website, doge.gov.com, $130 billion. Their goal is to save $4 billion a day, and they are doing it. They're talking about systems. And when it comes to talking about modernizing systems, think about it. You come in, you're there 2 years, maybe 4 years as Treasury Secretary. Once in a while, you stay the whole time. There's no motivation to reform things. And as soon as you get on a roll, make some suggestions, somebody else is in charge. So what you do is you continue with that systems, which explains why manually Social Security is handled, why it's so costly to explain to people how to retire, let alone to actually retire, and there's fraud within the system. So with every taxpayer so far has saved $807. But what he's doing different that's caused controversy, out the fraud. Watch.
The two improvements that we're trying to make to Social Security are helping people that legitimately get benefits, protect them from fraud that they experience every day on a routine basis, and also make the experience better. And I'll give you one example is at Social Security, one of the first things we learned is that they get phone calls every day of people trying to change direct deposit information. So when you want to change your bank account, you can call Social Security. We learned 40% of the phone calls that they get are from fraudsters.
And then Mark Cuban criticized the Doge team's discovery. I mean, I don't even think he acknowledged that the 40% of the calls are from people trying to take personal information.
40%. That's right. Almost half.
What we're doing will help their benefits. Legitimate people, as a result of the work of Doge, will receive more Social Security, not less.
You've heard a lot of news about rifts, about people getting fired. At this moment in time, less than 0.15, not 1.5, less than 0.15 of the federal workforce has actually been given a RIF notice.
It's incredible.
Who could be a
So, ladies and gentlemen, it's difficult to comprehend that in 24 and also 23 and perhaps other years, Pelosi and beat hedge funds, almost everyone in the market. It's very difficult even to get a 20% gain. It's very, very difficult even to make every year 10 to 20%. That's very difficult, especially if you're buying and selling individual stocks. Okay? And yet there's no suspicion, and then now they're going after Trump for insider trading. I mean, you can't make this up. You can't make this up. And it's really, this is Trump's tariff whiplash is open corruption. He admitted it himself. I wonder what the New Republic thinks of Nancy Pelosi outperforming the market and making a 54% gain in 24 and over 60% gain in 23 with perfectly timed stock trades, which you're never going to get far left or progressive publications to look in the mirror at people like Pelosi or Hunter Biden or Joe Biden or Liz Cheney, who they love now, for potentially destroying government records. They're all left is unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Anyway, hit subscribe to this channel. Be here tonight. I will be back tonight, ladies and gentlemen, for another live stream. Check the channel every hour or so if you're interested, and definitely hit subscribe and also hit the notification on the next live stream. Thanks, everybody.